The message came without warning. It spread across every channel that reached Earth. It was not just a message, it was a demand. The voice was cold, mechanical, and full of power. It was not human, it was alien. They spoke in a language that was instantly translated into English. The words were clear: surrender all fleets. Surrender all resources. Surrender all weapons. Surrender control of your planet. Do this, and you may be allowed to live under the rule of the Galactic Council. Refuse, and you will be destroyed. In orbit above Earth, the massive ring-shaped station, known as Sentinel-1, floated silently. Inside its command center, Captain Luke Mercer stood before a wide holographic display. The alien message played again, repeating every detail as if daring Earth to defy them. Luke's hands rested on the console, his eyes sharp and focused. He did not blink, he did not flinch. His jaw tightened as the voice continued behind him. Crew members exchanged nervous glances. No one spoke loudly. The air felt heavy. Everyone knew this was not a bluff. The galaxy's council had destroyed other planets before. Planets that had tried to resist, and now Earth was next. Luke remembered the stories. He remembered the reports from outlying colonies that had been attacked. Their fleets had been shattered, their cities turned into ash. The aliens did not waste time with mercy. They came, they conquered, and they left behind silence. Now that same fate was aimed at his home. He knew the Council's fleet was huge. 10 star nations working together, each with hundreds of warships, each with weapons that could burn through a planet's crust. No single human fleet could stand against them. At least, not the fleets the galaxy knew about. But humanity had secrets. Deep beneath the waves of the Pacific Ocean, far away from any city, there was a place no alien had ever seen. It was not marked on any map. It was not in any official record. It was called only by a code name, the Black Armada, for decades, while the galaxy looked down on Earth as a young and harmless world. Humanity had been building something different, not just ships, but shadows made of metal, vessels that could hide from sensors, whole armor that could drink in light and give nothing back, engines that made almost no heat for enemy trackers to find. Weapons that could kill before the target even knew they had been fired upon. Luke had seen them once. Years ago, they were enormous and quiet. The kind of warship that made you feel small, even when it was powered down. No one outside the project knew how many there were. Some said 10, some said 50, some whispered that there were more than 100. But the truth was locked away in the minds of only a few leaders. The alien message finished its loop and went silent. No reply had been sent yet. The Council had given Earth 24 hours to decide. Luke turned to his communications officer and told her to send a message to Admiral Nathan Cole. It was only one sentence. They're here. That was all the Admiral needed to hear. Far below the surface of the Pacific, alarms began to sound in the abyssal docks. Deep-sea pressure shields sealed massive steel doors. Underwater lights lit up row after row of black metal hulls. Crew members rushed aboard. Systems hummed to life. Engines whispered with power. The Black Armada was waking up in orbit. Luke's crew waited for orders. They knew that if the Black Armada was called, there would be no turning back. This would not be a negotiation. This would not be a surrender. This would be a fight that would echo through the galaxy. Luke looked out the station's viewport toward the blue curve of Earth. He thought of the people down there, families, cities, children playing in the streets. He thought of his own home in a quiet coastal town. He thought of what it would look like if the aliens came, and he decided, without doubt, that they would never set foot on his planet. The galaxy thought humanity was weak because they were new to the stars, but humanity had learned from history. Every war, every battle, every betrayal had been studied. Earth had learned how empires fell. It had learned that survival came not from begging, but from striking when least expected. Luke knew the Black Armada was not built to protect. It was built to win. As the countdown to the Council's deadline began, the message was sent to every hidden dock, every covert base, every Shadow Fleet station. The order was simple: Black Armada deploy, far beneath the waves. The first giant ship began to rise toward the surface. Water boiled around its edges as anti-gravity drives engaged. It climbed slowly at first, then faster, breaking through the surface like a beast from the deep. Spray shot hundreds of feet into the air as its black hull glistened under the sun. Other ships followed, each one emerging in silence. They made no sound but the rush of water falling from their hulls. Above them, cloaking fields shimmered into place. From the air, there was nothing to see but ocean. In the command room of Sentinel-1, Luke watched the fleet's telemetry appear. On his screen, tiny icons lit up the map one after another. After another, he felt a chill, even after years of hearing about it. Seeing the Black Armada awaken was something else entirely. This was not just a fleet, it was a shadow given form, and now, that shadow was about to fall over the enemy. The Council wanted Earth to surrender. They had given 24 hours. Luke knew they wouldn't even get 24 minutes once the Black Armada arrived. The decision had been made. There would be no surrender. Only the silence of space after the storm. Commander Claire Roberts felt the shuttle shudder as it descended deeper and deeper into the ocean. The windows showed nothing but black water. No sunlight could reach this far. Only the soft green glow of the shuttle's running lights lit the way. She sat strapped into her seat, helmet resting on her knees, eyes locked on the depth counter as the numbers dropped fast. Most people would feel uneasy being this far under the sea. Claire felt a strange calm. She had been here before. She knew. What waited at the bottom? A voice came over the comm, telling them they were entering the abyssal dock's perimeter. Her co-pilot adjusted the controls, and the shuttle slowed. In the darkness ahead, huge beams of light switched on one by one, revealing shapes that seemed almost impossible in size. Massive walls of steel curved into the distance. Floodgates taller than city buildings guarded the docks from the crushing pressure outside. This was humanity's most secret place. The place where the Black Armada slept. The gates opened slowly, water pouring through in controlled streams. The shuttle passed through into a space that felt like entering another world. Inside the docks, hundreds of spotlights lit the cavernous chamber, and there they were. The ships Claire never got tired of the sight. Warships so black they seemed to drink in the light. Hull plates that shimmered like liquid shadows. The ships didn't have the bright, proud colors of normal fleets. They looked like predators, built to hide and then strike without warning. Technicians and crew moved across floating platforms. Robotic arms crawled over hulls, ceiling panels, loading weapons, checking every system. The air smelled faintly of machine oil and salt water. The sound was a deep hum from the generators that powered the docks. Everywhere she looked, there was quiet urgency. No one was panicking. But everyone knew this was it. The moment they had trained for. These ships had been built for one reason. And now that reason had arrived. The shuttle landed on a pad near the command center. Claire, unstrapped, stepped onto the metal deck and walked quickly toward the glass-walled control room above. The room overlooked the entire dock like the bridge of a ship. Inside stood Admiral Nathan Cole, hands behind his back, eyes fixed on the holographic projection hovering before him. It showed the alien fleet's formation, layer after layer of ships, marked in red. Claire approached and saluted. The Admiral turned his head slightly, gave a small nod, and gestured for her to come closer. "They're gathering faster than we thought," he said quietly. His voice was calm, but there was an edge in it. Claire studied the hologram. The alien fleet was already near the Orion Gate. They would be in the solar system soon. It was a sight that would make most commanders feel hopeless, but Admiral Cole had been waiting years for this. "They think they know war," he said, his gaze still locked on the display. "They don't." It was not just confidence, it was certainty. He knew the Black Armada had advantages no alien fleet had ever faced. Every system on these ships had been designed to exploit weaknesses in alien technology. Every weapon had been tested against captured enemy shields. Every crew member had been trained to fight without relying on the methods the galaxy considered standard. If the enemy thought they were coming to face another predictable human fleet, they were in for a shock. A voice over the comm reported that the first wave of Black Armada ships was ready for launch. Claire looked out through the control room. Glass at the docks below, ship after ship powered up, their engines glowing faintly before fading into complete darkness again. They could vanish from sensors even while moving. They could pass right through a blockade without anyone knowing. It was like watching shadows prepare to leave the walls and hunt. Technicians confirmed that stealth systems were fully operational. Weapon cores were armed, but kept on standby to avoid giving off detectable heat. Communications were switched to tight beam signals, invisible to anyone not directly in the path. Even the ship's armor had microscopic patterns that bent radar and light away. It was the closest thing to invisibility ever achieved in space. Claire's heart pounded. She knew what was coming. Soon these docks would be empty, and the Black Armada would be somewhere out there. Between Earth and the alien fleet, she wondered if the aliens had even considered the possibility that humanity had a second fleet, or if they still believed the only ships they had to fear were the visible ones. Either way, they were about to learn. Admiral Cole stepped back from the hologram and addressed the senior officers in the room. "Once the enemy enters the system, they will expect to see our defense lines near Mars," he said. "They won't." He explained the plan in simple terms. Let the enemy advance, make them believe Earth was undefended. Then strike from the shadows with overwhelming force. No drawn-out battle, no chance for them to regroup. Just one clean, decisive blow. The kind of strike that would be remembered in every corner of the galaxy. Claire listened, memorizing every detail. Her own role would be commanding one of the Vanguard ships in the first strike. It was a responsibility she had trained for her entire career, and now it was real. There would be no simulations, no practice runs. This would be the fight that decided whether Earth survived or burned. Down in the docks, warning lights flashed, signaling final checks. Massive clamps released from the hulls of the warships. Engines whispered to life, barely audible over the hum of the generators, one by one. The ships began to rise toward the surface exit tunnels. From above, they looked like black knives cutting. Through water, Claire watched them go. She felt the weight of the moment press against her, but she also felt something else, a deep, fierce pride. The Black Armada was not just a fleet, it was a promise. A promise that humanity would never kneel to any empire. And in a few short hours, that promise would be delivered in full force. Somewhere far above, the alien fleet was still preparing to enter the system. They had no idea that death was already on its way to meet them, far away from Earth. In the cold stretch of space near the Orion Gate, the alien fleet gathered. Warships from 10 different star nations floated in tight formation, each one gleaming with the colors and symbols of its people. They had come together for a single purpose, to crush humanity. To them, Earth was not a threat, it was an example. An example of what happened to young worlds that refused to bow to the Galactic Council. At the center of the formation was the Velen flagship. A massive ship shaped like a curved blade. It belonged to Admiral Joreth, leader of the invasion. Inside the command hall of the flagship, Joreth stood on a raised platform surrounded by a circle of alien officers. His armor was black and silver, his eyes cold and narrow. He stared at the tactical map floating before him, showing the position of every ship in the fleet. Around the edges of the map, tiny icons marked the location of supply ships, carriers, and escort destroyers in his mind. This battle was already over before it began. Reports came in from his scouts. They told him there was no sign of Major. Human fleets in the outer system, no defense platforms near the Orion Gate. No minefields, no patrols, nothing. Jorath gave a slow, satisfied nod. Primitive desperation, he said. They know they cannot win, so they hide. What Jorath did not know was that humanity's silence was not fear. It was bait on. Earth, the Black Armada, had already begun its deployment. Invisible to enemy sensors, its ships were spreading into a wide net across the system. From the aliens' point of view, it looked like the humans were leaving themselves open. From the humans' point of view, it was a perfect trap among the alien fleets. There were different kinds of ships. The Krenner heavy cruisers, bristling with missile launchers, the tall, spire-like frigates of the Shalari, built for long-range energy strikes. The bulky troop carriers of the Draxan, loaded with soldiers eager to set foot on human soil. Each species had its own way of fighting, but they all shared the same arrogance. When it came to humanity, they believed the humans' technology was a century behind theirs. They believed humans had no experience in wars on this scale. They believed this battle would be a quick and glorious victory. In the Velen flagship, the mood was confident. Officers spoke about how quickly they would reach Earth. They debated which cities they would take first. Some even discussed which resources they would claim from the planet. The humans were not seen as warriors. They were seen as future laborers or dust under alien boots. Jorath walked to the wide viewing window at the front of the bridge. Before him, thousands of stars. Burned in the blackness, the Orion Gate floated like a giant metal ring, its inner surface glowing with the swirling light of a stable wormhole. Through that gateway lay the road to Earth. His fleet would pass through it in less than a day, and when they did, they expected to face a small human resistance before burning their way to victory. No one in the alien fleet imagined that somewhere, hidden in the shadows between planets, a human warship could be watching them. In fact, more than one was watching. Cloaked scouts from the Black Armada were already inside their formation. Every ship, every engine, every weapon system was being recorded. Human intelligence officers were building a perfect map of the alien fleet's weaknesses. Every blind spot, every gap in formation, every ship carrying unstable reactors was being marked for the coming strike. Back on Earth, the human high command reviewed the data in silence. They could see how confident the aliens were. They could hear their open-channel chatter, laughter, pride, mockery. It only confirmed what Admiral Cole had said. They think they know war. They don't. In the alien fleet. A few officers from the younger races were uneasy. They had read reports about the humans from decades ago. Stories about smaller battles where human ships fought harder than expected. Whispers about experimental weapons and tactics that didn't match any known pattern. But whenever they voiced these concerns, they were laughed at. The Velen Admiral made it clear humanity was outmatched in numbers, technology, and experience. There was nothing to worry about. Yet beyond the range of their sensors, something stirred. Like predators circling in the dark, the Black Armada adjusted its positions. Each ship moved with precision, staying completely silent. They were waiting for the perfect moment to strike, and the aliens, in all their pride, were sailing straight toward it. The countdown to the wormhole jump began, inside the Velen flagship. The lights dimmed slightly as power was routed to the jump drives. A deep hum filled the air. Jorath stood tall, his hands behind his back, in his mind. This was just the beginning of a campaign that would make him a hero across the galaxy. He could already imagine the Council's praise, the rewards, the territories. He would control, but far away. Captain Luke Mercer of the Black Armada was watching too. He stood on the bridge of his own flagship, staring at the same formation Jorath commanded. Only Luke wasn't imagining glory. He was imagining how fast he could make that fleet disappear. He knew that once the aliens jumped into the solar system, they would be inside the kill zone. And when that happened, there would be no escape. The alien fleet continued to gather, their formation tightening as they prepared to move. It was a grand display of power. Thousands of ships, engines glowing, hulls gleaming in starlight. To most, it would look unstoppable to humanity. It was just the largest target they had ever been given. The Black Armada's captains checked their weapons one last time. Somewhere deep in the Pacific, more ships rose toward the surface, ready to join the hunt. The silence before the storm stretched long and thin, and somewhere in the cold void between stars, war was already breathing, waiting to begin when the alien fleet finally emerged at the far edge of the solar system. They expected to see human ships waiting. They expected defense lines near the outer planets, maybe a scattered force trying to delay them. Instead, their scanners showed only empty space. There were no warships, no stations, no minefields, nothing. It was as if the humans had abandoned the outer system entirely on the Velen flagship. Admiral Joreth watched the sensor screens with a faint smile. His officers reported clear paths all the way to Earth. No resistance, no sign of any large fleet. To them, it was proof of everything they believed humanity had chosen to hide. Joreth ordered the fleet to advance at full speed, confident the victory would come quickly. But the truth was very different. High above the orbital plane, hidden in the black between stars, the Black Armada was waiting. They did not move in formation like the alien fleet. Instead, they were scattered in a vast, invisible net, their cloaks bending light and absorbing heat. They were watching every alien movement, tracking every ship without being seen. On the bridge of his flagship, Captain Luke Mercer stood in the shadows, eyes fixed on the tactical display. Small red icons marked every enemy ship. The alien fleet was moving fast, but it was moving blind. Luke knew that the longer the aliens stayed unaware, the harder they would fall when the trap was sprung. The alien fleet crossed the orbit of Neptune, their engines leaving faint trails of blue light. Still, there was no sign of humans. Some alien officers joked over the comm channels. They wondered if the humans were too afraid to fight at all. Others speculated that the Black Armada, which existed only as rumor to them, was nothing but propaganda. If they had known the truth, they might not have laughed so easily then. For the first time, the aliens' long-range scanners caught movement. Shapes began to appear ahead of them, dark against the faint glow of the distant sun. At first, the alien officers assumed they were asteroids, but then the shapes grew larger, their lines too. Sharp, too deliberate to be natural, the aliens slowed, their formation shifting slightly. And that was when the sunlight hit the first of the black hulls. The ships of the Black Armada seemed to rise out of nothing. One moment the space ahead was empty. The next, it was filled with towering warships, each one the size of a city block. Their armor drank in the light, turning them into silhouettes that felt more like shadows than metal. They moved without a sound, without the bright engine trails alien ships left behind. They were ghosts, and they were already in attack position. Joreth's bridge went silent. Every officer stared at the sight. No one had expected this. These ships didn't match the design of any known human fleet. Their hulls had no markings, no visible weapons, just smooth, dark surfaces that seemed to shift like liquid. For the first time since the invasion began, some of the alien officers felt unease. Luke's voice came over the secure fleet channel, calm and steady. All ships, hold position. Weapons ready. He wasn't in a rush. He wanted the aliens to see them, to understand that they were not facing the humans they thought they knew. The Black Armada had been built for this exact moment. The moment the enemy realized too late that they were trapped, the alien fleet slowed even more. Their formation tightening, Some ships activated their shields. Others began scanning the human ships, trying to get readings through the strange black armor. They found nothing useful. The hulls reflected no energy signatures, no heat, no weapon traces. It was like scanning empty space. A low hum ran through the Black Armada's ships as power flowed to their weapons. Hidden gun ports slid open along the hulls, but from a distance it was impossible to see. Missile bays locked onto targets, railguns spun up, energy cannons charged in silence. Still, not a single shot was fired. Luke waited. He wanted the aliens to make the first move, to commit to the fight before they realized the scale of their mistake. On the Velen flagship Joreth gave the order to test the human ship's strength. A line of alien cruisers moved forward and fired a volley of plasma rounds. The shots streaked through the void, glowing bright against the blackness. They hit the leading human ship and vanished. The rounds didn't explode. They simply disappeared into the black surface. The alien gunners stared at their screens in disbelief. They didn't know the Black Armada's hulls were layered with adaptive energy absorption plating. The shots had been swallowed like pebbles dropped into the ocean. Inside his command chair, Luke watched the incoming fire and didn't even flinch. "All ships," he said over the comm, "prepare to answer." The alien fleet was still adjusting to the shock of their weapons, doing nothing when the next surprise came. The Black Armada began to move, slowly at first, drifting forward like shadows stretching across the stars. Then, as one, the ships shifted into full attack speed. No bright flares, no roaring engines, just silent, lethal acceleration, straight toward the enemy. The alien sensors lit up with alarms. Dozens of new contacts appeared all around them. The rest of the Black Armada was revealing itself. Ships uncloaking behind and to the sides of the alien formation. The trap was closing. And for the first time, the alien fleet began to understand that the humans had been here all along, waiting for this exact moment, in the stillness, before the first strike. The Black Armada held their fire. Every captain's hand hovered over the controls. Every gunner's sights locked on their target. Luke's voice came one last time. "They wanted us to surrender," he said quietly. "They're about to learn. Why we don't?" Captain Luke Mercer stood at the center of his bridge, the glow from the tactical screens reflecting in his eyes. Around him, his crew waited in complete silence. Every ship of the Black Armada was in position, every weapon locked onto a target. The alien fleet was still reorganizing after the shock of seeing them appear from the shadows. Luke knew this was the moment. He leaned forward slightly and spoke. In a calm, steady voice, "Make them remember us." The order rippled through secure channels in an instant. The Black Armada came alive. From the leading human battleships, invisible beams of concentrated energy lanced out across the void. The beams hit alien shields before the crews even realized they were under attack. The shields flared bright for less than a second before collapsing entirely. The next heartbeat brought the second wave, massive railgun slugs moving at near light speed. They punched through alien hulls like paper. Ships that had stood proud moments earlier now spun helplessly, torn apart in silence on the Velen flagship. Alarms screamed. Joreth's officers shouted over one another, trying to track where the fire was coming from, but their targeting systems were going blind. Human jamming fields wrapped around the alien ships, filling their sensors with false readings. Enemy icons blinked in and out of existence on their displays. Some alien weapons even began locking onto their own allies by mistake. Panic began to creep into their voices. Luke's crew moved like a single machine. Every shot was calculated, every strike chosen with precision. Cruisers exploded in silent flashes of light. Frigates broke apart as their reactors overloaded carrier decks that had been launching fighters a moment ago became clouds of debris. The Black Armada never stopped moving. They weaved in and out of the alien formation, cloaking and uncloaking as they struck. From the aliens' perspective, the humans seemed to vanish between attacks, only to reappear somewhere else with another killing blow. A squadron of Krenner destroyers tried to flank one of the human battleships. Before they got close, a pair of human stealth frigates uncloaked directly behind them. 6 torpedoes launched in perfect unison. The destroyers were gone before their captains could even shout an order on the Velen flagship. Yorith gripped the edge of the tactical table, his claws digging into the metal. How are they doing this? One of his officers demanded. They shouldn't be able to jam us like this, they shouldn't. His voice trailed off as another cluster of red icons vanished from the display. The fleet was breaking faster than he could give orders. Across the human fleet, the mood was steady, focused. This wasn't a desperate fight for survival. This was the Black Armada doing exactly what it had been built for. Luke kept his voice calm as he redirected fire. Shadow's Edge, take out those carriers. Vanguard 3, your targets are those heavy cruisers to starboard. Keep moving. Don't give them a stationary target. The aliens tried to fire back. Bright plasma bolts and energy lances cut across space, but the human ships danced around them, even when a shot landed. The Black Armada's adaptive armor absorbed most of the impact. Damage control teams patched minor breaches without slowing. The assault. For every human ship that took a hit, 5 alien ships were destroyed. The difference in tactics was brutal. The aliens relied on overwhelming numbers and constant fire. The humans relied on speed, precision, and complete disruption of enemy systems. Every time the aliens tried to regroup, the Black Armada struck at their weak point. Every time they tried to retreat, a cloaked ship was already waiting to cut them off. Some alien commanders tried to call for a full retreat, but their signals were jammed. Others tried to charge through the human lines. They didn't make it far. Their ships were picked apart before they could even break formation. One alien dreadnought, easily 3 times the size of the largest human battleship, tried to make a stand. It absorbed hit after hit. Firing back with all its guns, Luke ordered his ships to focus fire. Within seconds, over a dozen Black Armada vessels unleashed their weapons on the massive ship. Its shields failed, its armor split, and then its core went critical. The explosion lit up the battlefield, sending fragments spinning into the void. Every alien nearby saw it happen. The message was clear. Size meant nothing against the Black Armada on the Velen flagship. Jorith could feel the battle slipping from his control, the once perfect formation of his fleet was now shattered into scattered pockets of resistance. Ships were fleeing in every direction. Some simply cut their engines and surrendered. Others tried to hide behind wreckage, but there was no hiding from ships that could find you without sensors. Luke watched as more enemy icons vanished from his display. The kill ratio was staggering. The aliens had never fought anyone who could take apart a fleet this quickly. But the Black Armada was not just winning, it was dismantling them piece by piece. The comm officer looked up from her console. Enemy flagship still holding position, she reported. Luke's gaze sharpened. He knew that as long as Jorith's ship remained, some of the alien captains might still fight. It was time to break their will completely. He gave the order. All ships, prepare to close on the flagship. The Black Armada shifted as one, moving like a dark wave through the wreckage. Alien crews watched in horror as the human ships angled directly toward the Velen command vessel. Every gun, every missile, every railgun slug would soon be aimed. At the heart of their fleet, Luke stood tall on the bridge. This was no longer just a battle. It was a message to the galaxy. Humanity would never kneel, and anyone who demanded their surrender would pay in fire and silence. Admiral Nathan Cole stood in the command center of the Black Armada's central ship through the large tactical screen. He could see the alien fleet breaking apart, the enemies. Once perfect lines were now just scattered groups of ships. Some were trying to run. Some were trying to regroup, and some were firing wildly without any plan. Cole knew this was the moment to end it. He pressed his hand to the comm panel and gave the order in a steady voice. Execute the net across the Black Armada. Captains acknowledged the command. In deep space, far beyond the main clash, cloaked frigates and destroyers powered up. They had been waiting in complete silence, hidden behind planets, moons, and asteroid shadows. Now, they moved in perfect synchronization. The net was a maneuver designed to trap the enemy completely. It was not just about surrounding them. It was about cutting off every escape route in 3 dimensions. The alien ships did not even realize at first. They thought they still had a path to retreat toward the Orion Gate. But as they pushed in that direction, new human ships appeared from the blackness. Sleek frigates and sharp-edged cruisers uncloaked right in their path. From the aliens' point of view, the humans seemed to appear out of nowhere, blocking every possible exit. Panic spread fast. Officers shouted over alien comm channels, demanding updates. Their sensors showed enemy signatures in places that had been empty seconds ago. Every escape corridor they plotted closed almost immediately inside one alien carrier. The crew tried to force their way through the human blockade. Before they could build up speed, a pair of stealth corvettes slid in behind them. Railgun rounds tore through the carrier's engines. The massive ship drifted helplessly, smoke venting into space. Human boarding craft were already on their way. Admiral Cole watched the chaos with calm focus. He had spent years preparing for this kind of fight. The aliens were trained for large, open battles where power and numbers decided the winner. They were not trained for an enemy that fought like a hunter striking from shadows, then vanishing before you could respond. Now, with the net closing, they had no choice but to fight in small, desperate groups, and against the Black Armada, small groups did not survive long on the Velen flagship. Admiral Jorith slammed a clawed fist against the arm of his command chair. His voice was a growl as he ordered every remaining ship to break through at any cost. Some alien captains obeyed, throwing their ships forward at full speed, but they didn't get far. Human ships moved like water, flowing around them, cutting them off, forcing them back toward the center of the trap. A squadron of alien heavy cruisers attempted to form a defensive ring. They positioned themselves back to back, firing in all directions. It might have worked against a normal fleet, but the Black Armada did not fight like a normal fleet. Instead of charging straight in, the humans attacked from range. Cloaked frigates picked off the cruisers one by one from different angles. Each time a cruiser turned to fire, another attack came from the opposite side. Within minutes, the formation collapsed, the surviving ships scattering in panic. The jamming fields grew stronger as more human ships joined the net. Alien communications became nearly useless. Captains could barely speak to their own fleets without interference. False signals made them think human ships were in positions they weren't. Some alien vessels even crashed into their own allies trying to dodge phantom targets. In one corner of the battlefield, an alien battleship tried to jump to faster-than-light travel. The jump drive powered up, but before it could engage, a focused EMP burst from a human stealth destroyer fried its systems. The battleship went dark, drifting helplessly. A squadron of human strike craft swept past, disabling its weapons before it could even restart. Luke Mercer's voice came over the fleet-wide channel. Tighten the lines. Don't let a single one slip through. The Black Armada shifted again, the arcs of their positions narrowing like a closing fist. Alien ships now had nowhere to go. Every direction led straight into human firepower. The silence in the command center was broken only by short, precise reports. Enemy cruiser destroyed, frigate disabled, carrier engines offline. Cole listened without a smile. He knew the battle was all but over, but he would not celebrate until the last threat was gone for the aliens. Inside the trap, the battle had become pure survival. They could not retreat. They could not regroup. Every attempt to form a counterattack ended in disaster. The humans were everywhere. It felt to them as if the Black Armada could read their thoughts, predicting every move before it happened on the Velen flagship. Yorith realized with growing dread that his fleet was no longer fighting to win. It was fighting to escape, but there was no escape. Every time he tried to carve a path out, another wave of human ships appeared. Every time he tried to protect his carriers, they were struck from behind. The trap was perfect, and he was caught in the center. The final layer of the net fell into place when the rear human squadrons closed in. From above and below the alien fleet, ships moved in tight, overlapping, firing. Arcs, the Black Armada's formation, looked like a giant sphere made of shadow. Inside it, the alien fleet was shrinking with every minute. Cole gave the last set of orders: begin the collapse, push them inward. The human ships advanced slowly now, forcing the aliens toward the center. Wreckage drifted between them, twisted hulls, shattered wings, clouds of frozen gas. The Black Armada moved through it all with precise control, never breaking formation. Every shot they fired found its mark. The alien fleet's numbers dropped lower and lower. By the time the net was fully closed, only the Velen flagship and a handful of escorts were still operational. Their hulls were scarred, their weapons failing. They were alone, surrounded by an ocean of black-armored human warships. For the first time since the battle began, there was no movement, no firing, only the cold, heavy silence of defeat. The trap had worked exactly as planned, and the galaxy's most feared coalition fleet had been broken. The Velen flagship floated at the center of the wreckage. Its once polished black hand-silver hull now scarred with burns and deep cracks. Its escorts were gone, either destroyed or drifting powerless. The battlefield around it was silent except for the faint hum of human engines. The Black Armada surrounded the flagship in a perfect circle. Every gun aimed directly at it. For a long moment, nothing moved. It was as if the void itself was holding its breath on the Velen bridge. Admiral Jorith stood rigid, his claws gripping the railing so tightly the metal bent under the pressure. His crew worked frantically at their stations, trying to restore systems. One officer shouted that the forward weapons were offline. Another reported that the shield generators were beyond repair. The jump drive was dead, communications were jammed, and even the life support systems were running on backup. They were trapped. Jorith's eyes narrowed as he stared at the tactical display. Every path out was blocked, every angle covered. He had commanded fleets for decades, and yet, in this moment, he could see no way to win. A flash of movement outside the viewing window caught his eye. From the shadows, a human ship glided forward, its hull as dark as the void. It was larger than the others, its surface lined with faint patterns that shifted like smoke. This was the flagship of the Black Armada. Jorith didn't need to be told who commanded it. He knew the humans' leader was coming for him. On the human bridge, Captain Luke Mercer watched the Velen flagship slowly rotate in the void. He studied it with the calm patience of a hunter watching cornered prey. "Bring us closer," he ordered, his voice even. The engines whispered to life. Carrying the massive human ship forward, other vessels of the Black Armada moved with it, their weapons tracking the Velen ship's every motion. Luke opened a secure channel directly to the Velen flagship. For several seconds, there was only static. Then the image of Admiral Jorith appeared on the main screen. The Velen leader's posture was still proud, but there was no mistaking the tension in his eyes. Luke didn't raise his voice. "You came here demanding Earth's surrender," he said slowly. "Now you're the one surrounded." Jorith's jaw tightened. "You've won this battle, human. But the Council will send another fleet, and another after that. Your black ships can't fight forever." Luke leaned slightly toward the screen, his tone still calm, but his words sharp. "We won't have to. The galaxy will remember what happened here. They'll think twice before coming." Again, the Velen Admiral's eyes narrowed. "You could destroy us right now. Why waste time talking?" Luke's reply was simple, "Because I want you to understand before the end." With a silent gesture, Luke ordered the final phase. Several Black Armada ships broke formation, moving to precise attack positions around the Velen flagship. Each ship locked its weapons onto critical points in the Velen vessel's structure. The main reactors, the engine core, the command tower. They didn't fire yet. It was a deliberate show of control. The message was clear. The humans could destroy them any second. But they were choosing the moment, inside the Velen ship. Jorath's crew watched their screens in growing dread. One officer whispered that they should surrender. Another argued they should fight to the last. Jorath silenced them with a glare. If they were going to die, he would face it standing on the human bridge. Luke gave the order, disable their engines, then board. In an instant, bright spears of energy struck the Velen flagship's engine housing. The rear section erupted in a silent explosion, venting debris into space. The ship shuddered violently, drifting as its main thrusters went dark before the Velen crew could recover. Human boarding craft launched from several Black Armada ships. They darted through the wreckage, attaching to the Velen flagship's hull with magnetic clamps, cutting. Torches flared, opening entry points inside the Velen corridors. Armed human marines poured through the breaches. They moved quickly, sweeping each hallway with precision. The Velen defenders fought, but their resistance was scattered and desperate. Within minutes, the humans had control of the engineering decks, the weapons control room, and the main bridge doors. Jorath stood tall as the bridge doors burst open. Armed human marines stepped inside, their weapons steady but not firing. And then, behind them, Captain Luke Mercer entered. His steps were slow, deliberate, his expression unreadable. He stopped a few feet from Jorath. For a moment, the two commanders just looked at each other. No words. Just the weight of the battle hanging between them. Finally, Luke spoke. "Earth doesn't kneel." He said quietly. It wasn't a shout, it wasn't a boast, it was simply the truth. Jorath's jaw clenched, but he didn't look away. Luke nodded to his marines, and they moved in to take the Velen Admiral into custody. Back on the Black Armada flagship, the captured Velen commander was placed in a secure chamber. Luke turned to his comm officer. "Send the council our reply," he said. The officer hesitated. "What should I tell them, sir?" Luke's answer was cold and simple. "Show them the wreckage." A short time later, the Galactic Council received a live transmission. The feed showed the remains of their fleet twisted hulls drifting in the void, fires burning in open space, escape pods scattered like dust. At the center of it all, the Velen flagship floated under the control of human marines. The message needed no translation. The Council had demanded Earth's surrender. What they received instead was silence, and the image of the Black Armada standing victorious. For the humans, it was more than just a win. It was proof to the galaxy that Earth was not to be threatened. And for the alien survivors who limped away from the battle, it was a memory that would haunt them for the rest of their lives. The Black Armada had shown them a kind of warfare they had never seen before, and they knew that if they ever returned, it would end the same way. In the weeks after the battle, the wreckage of the alien fleet still drifted in the cold silence of space. Some of it remained near the orbit where the Black Armada had trapped them. Other pieces had floated far away, carried slowly by invisible currents of gravity. From a distance, the shattered remains looked like a graveyard of metal and fire. The once mighty coalition fleet was now nothing more than broken hulls and dead ships. News of what had happened spread faster than light. Merchant ships carried the story from system to system, Freighter crews whispered about how the humans had destroyed a fleet that outnumbered them many times over. Smugglers told their own versions, each more dramatic than the last. In spaceports across the galaxy, the words Black Armada began to carry a new weight. Some said the fleet was made of living ships. Others claimed the humans had found alien technology far older than the Council itself. No one outside Earth truly knew the truth, and that made the legend grow even more. On Earth, there was no public celebration. The victory was not broadcast on every channel. Most people only knew that the alien threat had been stopped. The details remained classified, hidden away in the files of the highest command. But for those who served in the Black Armada, the memory would never fade. They remembered the silence before the first strike, the shock on the alien fleet when the humans revealed themselves, the way the trap had closed and the battle had ended. With Earth still free, in a quiet room beneath the Pacific Command Base, Admiral Nathan Cole reviewed the after-action reports. Every strike, every maneuver, every loss was recorded. The Black Armada had taken damage, but far less than anyone expected for a battle of that size. It was proof that years of secrecy, training, and patience had paid off. Cole closed the files and locked them away. He knew the galaxy would try to learn from what had happened, but even if they studied for decades, they would never fully understand how the Black Armada moved, how it fought, and why it could not be stopped. Far from Earth, alien leaders argued. In private chambers, some wanted to launch another attack. Others warned that such a move would be suicide. The Velen Council representatives spoke less than anyone. Their humiliation was too fresh. Shoreth, now a prisoner of the humans, was kept alive. He had been questioned, but revealed little. Still, his presence was a message in itself. Even the most feared commander in the coalition had been captured. In the outer colonies, traitors began noticing something strange. Alien patrols that once harassed human ships now kept their distance. Convoys that had been easy targets before were suddenly ignored. It was as if the galaxy was quietly stepping back, giving humanity more space. No official treaties were signed, but the change was real. The fear of the Black Armada was doing what politics never could. The humans themselves kept the fleet hidden again after the battle. The surviving ships of the Black Armada did not remain in orbit or parade through the skies. They vanished back into the deep ocean docks. To the average person, it was as if they had never existed at all. Even the crews who served on them returned quietly to their lives, carrying memories they could never speak about in full. But in the far corners of space, where soldiers, pirates, and mercenaries swapped stories over cheap drinks, the Black Armada was always part of the conversation. Some claimed to have seen them appear out of nowhere in other battles. Others swore they had heard the hum of their engines just before their own ships were destroyed. Whether the stories were true or not didn't matter. What mattered was that the legend kept growing, and with it, the warning never demand Earth's surrender. Luke Mercer, the man who had given the order that began the slaughter, returned to his duties without speeches or awards. He knew the next threat could come at any time. He also knew that the Black Armada was ready. Its ships could wait for years in the shadows, their hulls cold and silent until the day came to strike again. When asked by one of his officers if he thought the aliens would return soon, he simply replied, "They might, but if they do, they'll remember what happened here." Somewhere in the dark between the stars, a lone beacon floated. It had been left intentionally among the wreckage of the Coalition fleet. Its signal was simple, a repeating image of the battlefield after the fight. It showed the broken alien ships, the black silhouettes of human warships behind them, and a single line of text in Galactic Standard: "Earth does not kneel." The beacon's message would carry on long after the last survivor of the battle was gone, and so in every corner of the galaxy. The name of the Black Armada became a shadow in the minds of those who would think to threaten Earth. The Council might still be powerful, their fleets still vast, but now they knew there was one world that would not break, a world that would answer every demand for surrender with silence, shadows, and fire. The warships of the Black Armada had returned to their hidden docks, but their presence lingered like a storm on the horizon, unseen, unheard, but always ready. The galaxy had learned a truth it would not forget. If you came for Earth, you had to be ready to face the Black Armada, and history had already shown what that meant. For those who challenged them, it meant wreckage, ruin, and an empty stretch of space where a fleet used to be. For humanity, it meant survival, and survival was all they ever needed to win.